Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be for a very special TV review. This is not going to be like a normal season review that I usually do. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but let me first introduce my guest here. I've never done a collab well, actually, I have with 22 Tiger Dude before, but besides him, I haven't done one, and I figured, you know, might as well collab with this boy because I don't think he's been on my channel enough. Here he is, FIlmFan0599.
Hey, what's up, you guys? FIlmFan0599 here again, and we're here for a very, very, very special TV review. You know what, Kevin? You go ahead and explain it.
All right, so let me just get into it. So, I can't introduce the show without telling the story because this is a really great story. So this boy right here, he was on Facebook because he was really bored and he's like, you know what? I'm going to do a Q&A. I haven't done one in a while. So he did a Q&A and I happened to be in the comments and we were joking about something I get on his ass about all the time. His amazing TV recap show that he doesn't do anymore. Fuck you for that. Even though I stopped before we even met with this shit.
I
always get on your ass for not, you know, having me on there because I did know you back then, but
we did know each other like we know now.
Yeah, we didn't talk as much and shit, but still, basically, I went in the chat. I jokingly talked about the fact that there's this Facebook show on now that you know, is for some reason a thing. I did not have any plans on watching it, but I figured, you know what? I'm bored. It's not that late at night. This boy has nothing to do. I don't either. So we sat down and we watched this show, and somehow we watched the entire season. I don't know how. I literally just was going to watch like an episode or two and think, okay, the show is shit, and then just make fun of it. Like, I did not have any plans to finish the season, but we did. So for
the whole thing.
We watched the whole thing of the first season of the Facebook watch show 5 Points. Now, I know a lot of you are like, what the fuck is this? I've never heard of this show. And yeah, there's a very good reason.
There's a good reasoning.
Very good reason for it. We're just going to get into it right now. Yes, this is a show. It's on Facebook. I honestly think it's hilarious that Facebook is trying to make content now. Like, Facebook is a site that its purpose is for promoting content, not making their own content. Like, that's not what Facebook is supposed to be. And the fact that they're trying to make shows, I think, is honestly a really desperate attempt. And this show very much does feel like they're trying to cash in on that formula because without getting into anything, it's not very good. I really was not a huge fan this first season. We'll get into it a little bit more, but Double Nine, just very quickly, what do you want to say about your thoughts on this season overall?
It wasn't very good. It felt like a very just poignant ripoff of, say, like something like maybe 13 Reasons Why or like Degrassi or something like that. It just felt like it was trying to cash in on that type of success with it, and it just came off as very overdramatic and very just not doing like. Very also rushing with development.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we did not flesh out these characters enough. We didn't really get much closure with a lot of the stories that were presented to us because the episodes are so short. They're like literally like 10 minutes or even shorter than that, actually, to be honest. Like, they're really short episodes, and they really do rush a lot throughout a lot of things and really takes out of your enjoyment or trying to get invested into the story. Like, don't be invested maybe into one thing, and then all of a sudden the episode's over. Like, because it's so short and it just rushes so much with its development.
Yeah, so without getting into really anything, basically what the show is about is there's like 5 different teenagers at this school, which is conveniently called 5 Points, even though 5 Points is also like, it has a double meaning, basically. We'll get into that in a little bit, but basically these 5 different teenagers, and they're seemingly unconnected, and basically everything basically starts to come to a head when this one tragedy occurs. And yeah, you've already seen this like 1,000 times. You can already pretty much tell where it's going to go. I'm just going to jump into the cast right now because the acting in this show is something I was very concerned about. A lot of these actors I really did not recognize, and with a show like this, that's not usually a good thing. Usually it's because they focus more on, oh, that character looks attractive. Oh, that character is going to make the girls swoon. Oh, that actor doesn't have any ability, but he looks very attractive and girls are going to like him and things like that. They don't really focus on an actor's acting ability, and that's kind of the case with the show and kind of not. Some of them I thought were really good. The best, without a doubt, being Hayley Kiyoko. I thought that she easily was the best actress on the show. This should not come as a surprise because she's easily the most recognizable actress on the show for sure, besides one other person that we'll get to in a little bit. But I thought she was honestly really good in this show. She definitely has a very interesting storyline where she's someone who, you know, she has this dad who is like this policeman or whatever, and I really did like getting into her character. I think even in moments where her character wasn't really working, I think she really did elevate it overall. I think whenever we focused on her, the show was pretty much at its best. So I think she was definitely really good here. Anything you want to say about her real quick?
She was really great. I definitely do think she was, without question, the best actor or actress in the entire show. I just thought she gave the best performance. Like, she was really the only character that I was at least invested in and was interested to see where her story was going, mostly because I thought she did a great job. I really did actually think they did a somewhat decent job of developing her character the best out of anybody in the show. So, yeah, and also the stuff that follows her along was definitely the most investive, and especially where things lead into, I thought they did very solidly with her character. I quite liked it a lot. So I definitely do think, without question, she was easily the best character and the best actress in the entire show.
Oh, yeah, she did a fantastic job. But on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, we have the second most recognizable actress here, Madison Pettis, on this show, as this character of Tosh. And again, very concerned. I have not seen her act in a very long time, and I really hope I don't again because she's pretty awful here. This character is basically just your typical spoiled rich girl who she's just so concerned about this guy that she's with and getting like this scholarship or whatever. She has this dad that's like into guns for some reason. I really could not stand this character. She just came across as every bitchy mean girl you've ever seen before. And unfortunately, Pettis cannot act to save her life, especially in dramatic scenes. It was so laughable. Any scene where she's supposed to break down or you're supposed to feel something, you just don't. There's a huge disconnect there, and it's clear that she's trying. I'm not going to say that she's not trying because she really is. She's just not a good dramatic actress. I think her role as Sophie on Cory in the House, that's in her wheelhouse. That's something that she's good at. This just is not working. It seemed like one of those like lame attempts that a forgotten Disney Channel star tries to make themselves relevant again, and this just really did not work at all. And it's unfortunate because, like I said, I was interested in seeing how she was going to be here, and I thought easily she was, without a doubt, the worst actress on the show. She's the worst character on the show. There were so many moments where I was laughing at her unintentionally, and I think that doubles here can collectively agree with me that she was pretty bad.
Yeah, easily, without question, she's like the worst thing about the show for me, at least. She just wasn't good, like, at all. There was never a moment I felt bad for her or really just felt any type of emotion with her because, just for one, her character is so unlikable. And I get that's the point, but it's just like they don't necessarily do a good job of it. It's not like one of those things. It's just the way she come across and stuff. It's not good. And like you said, it's basically every typical like mean girl you've seen beforehand.
Yeah, that's really all she is on this show. The rest of the cast, I think, ranges from okay to whatever. Like, the actor who plays CJ, I thought was all right. Spencer Moore II, very important character as a character of Eric. I'm not going to get into what happens with him. We'll get to that with spoilers and things like that. But I did think that he actually did a really good job. Where they end up taking him, I definitely was not expecting. And I did think that he had some of the better emotional moments in the show. Someone who I was very surprised that I actually ended up liking. I thought he was going to be terrible. But Jake Austin Walker, as Alex. I thought throughout most of the show, I really was not liking him. He just seemed like this typical bully. However, later in the show, when they started to focus on him, I'm like, damn, this dude's actually really good. So yeah, there is talent sprinkled throughout the show. It's nothing amazing. It's nothing absolutely remarkable, but I do think that most of them, besides Madison Pettis, did the bare minimum of what they needed to do.
Yeah,
the cast overall is, pretty. They're pretty, they definitely do know what they're doing, and I do think that it is a comparable cast overall, definitely.
Yeah, I would say the same. I would say the acting isn't necessarily the greatest thing in the world, but it's passable. It's for what they have to do. I think they get their point across, and I do think they try to do their best, but I don't necessarily think it's anything amazing as well.
So now we're getting into the thing that I think really is a detriment to the show. We've already said before that this is very similar to 13 Reasons Why. It very much feels like it's trying to be 13 Reasons Why. However, for me, the tone is very different from 13 Reasons Why, because I've heard people complain that 13 Reasons Why is very overdramatic and that it tries so hard to be dramatic. And that's exactly what I think this show is. There's rarely a moment in this show where it doesn't feel like they're trying to force this drama down your throat and that they're trying to make you just feel this sense of dread and this sense of urgency. And it's just trying so hard for that, and it mainly is due to the writing, but the problem is it doesn't feel natural. There's rarely any moments of levity or anything comedic or anything fun really happening, and if it is, it's very, very quick. And again, that's mainly due to like the editing and things like that. But I think the directing, again, they really could have tried to just make it feel natural. Like if you're looking for a realistic portrayal of high school, this is not it. This is not high school at all. It's so cliched. It feels so unrealistic. It feels like this was written by a bunch of 40-year-olds who haven't been to high school in a while, and that this is what they think high school is. And the tone, it doesn't work. It didn't feel natural, and I just didn't really buy it. It felt very forced, and it just did not really work for me. I don't know if you have anything to say about the directing.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I pretty much agree with everything you said. It feels very overdramatic. It feels like a lot of this stuff is being forced down your throat. It doesn't feel genuine, and it just doesn't feel like very right in the place. There are a couple moments that I did think that were very good. That I thought were very good. It's mainly with Hayley Kiyoko's character and who was the other dude?
Spencer Moore the second.
Yeah. I thought it was mostly whenever it was those two. I thought the dramatic elements were really good, but other than that, I did feel like most of the dramatic elements were very forced, very just down your throat. And I felt like they didn't do a good job of executing them. Yeah, and they should have been way better than what they were preceded.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's still not the problem with this show. The problem with the show absolutely is the writing. The writing is, I think, some of the most piss poor and some of the laziest I have seen for any of these teen shows in a very long time. Because again, the problem with this show is it's trying so hard to be 13 Reasons Why, and it's trying so hard to be this character-driven show. But the characters just really aren't that interesting. The characters only have like this one thing going on with them. Take CJ, for example. All CJ's character is in this show is someone who basically, and if I'm forgetting something, it's because the show does not really give you that much to latch onto with these characters, is he's someone who he's not very financially stable. He's like selling, I believe, like drugs and guns and things like that. And he's in all these like shady dealings. And that's really it. There's not really much else to latch onto with his character. The same thing with the Wallace character. All he really is this nerdy guy, and I don't really remember anything else about him.
Yeah, and he gets like picked on for being gay and stuff like that.
Yeah, something like that. Like we're assuming that he's gay, but yet he likes Hayley Kiyoko. We don't really know. It's a weird storyline overall. And then Hayley Kiyoko's character, I don't really remember what's going on with her either. I just remember I really liked her character. Like I said, the problem with the writing is that there's just not really a lot to latch onto. It's very forgettable. It's really nothing that really connected me to these characters, and it just doesn't really do much with them. Like, it's trying to get these characters from point A to point B, but it doesn't give us that groundwork, and I think that that development that we really did need. None of these characters really start off all that interesting. They just kind of start off in this one place, and most of them this season don't really go anywhere. Like the Wallace character, the CJ character, even Tosh as a character doesn't really go anywhere. The only character I think that goes somewhere is Hayley, Kiyoko, and Eric. I think those are the only two characters that actually went somewhere this season.
I feel like they knew those two were like the best characters, so it's like, oh, let's just do something with just these two characters.
Yeah, and this would be just fine if the show actually gave us time to flesh out these characters, but they simply don't. In fact, the only episode I thought that they actually fleshed out a character was Eric's episode. That was the only episode where I felt, okay, this is fleshing out the character really well. We're actually getting some really good stuff with this character here. I'm actually really liking where they're going with them. I feel like I do have a compelling arc to latch onto, but other than that, I never really felt like we got much with any of the characters, and I think the writing was just very stagnant. It never really seemed, it always felt like it was just beginning. Like, you should feel like it's progressing somewhere, because the show is basically like it's chronicling like 3 days in their lives. Like, it'll go Wednesday, and then it'll go Tuesday, it'll go Wednesday, then it'll go Thursday, and not much really happens to a lot of our characters in these 3 days. Like, Wallace will get bullied, and then the next day he'll pull out a gun, and then it's a prop gun, and then the day after that, something happens, and he has like this security footage or whatever. It's not a very compelling arc. Not really anything that exciting happens with these characters, minus this one event. And the problem is they're so focused on this one event, they forgot to flesh out the rest of the characters. And this wouldn't be a problem if basically the main premise of the show is that this event is what ties the characters together. And for me, I think the biggest problem is that they forgot to really give them an interesting arc and didn't really give me anything to latch onto. And that really is, I think, my biggest thing with the show overall, is that I just really needed more there. The places the show goes, I think, are so hokey and so cheesy. There's so many things that you've seen before. Like, there's like the token gay character. There's a token like ghetto black character who's like selling drugs and things like that. It doesn't try to subvert anything. It doesn't try to do anything original. It doesn't try to subvert your expectations. And that's something I will actually credit 13 Reasons Why for doing. There is actually a lot of stuff in that show that I didn't see coming. There are a lot of characters there that they don't go the way you think they're going to go, and I think that it actually gives the show that show a lot more credit. I know people don't like that show, but watching this show, you can't tell me that these characters are better than the characters on that show, because they're simply not. The fact that I can't really say much about them should just tell you that they're not very well fleshed out. I don't really remember them. If they did have something, it just wasn't very memorable, and I just wasn't very into what was going on. So I've said pretty much all I need to say about the writing overall. I'm going to hand it over here to Double Nine, because I know he has a lot to say about the writing overall.
But yeah, the writing overall, I do think is very piss poor. It's very just, it rushes very much into the characters. Like, we don't really get much development for them and a reason to care, really. It's just like they throw something at you and they're like, okay, now you gotta care. But there's really no development towards it. And I really felt like they did a really piss poor job of that. Because some of these storylines could have had an interesting turnaround and could have been very good. But just the way that the writing handles it, it's very piss poor. And it's not well executed, like, at all, to be honest. And like you said, I don't really care for a lot of these characters because they just don't give you a reason to care about these characters. They really don't. They just throw something at you and you're like, oh, care now. Like, no, you need to properly develop these characters, and they really do a very piss poor job of that. And it feels very rushed and very just not well done at all.
So, like we said, the writing is easily the biggest problem with the show. Cinematography, I will admit, isn't that bad. I think for a Facebook show, it actually looks really good. Nothing outstanding, but there are some shots that really do stick with me, particularly some things that go down in the finale that really do stick with me. I do think that those shots were well done. I will admit, towards the end of the show, like I'd say the last 2 episodes, the writing did get better. Like there definitely is room for improvement. However, I think this really does not stem back to the fact that the writing is so piss poor. I think it's so piss poor because of the editing and because of the runtime of these episodes, which, here's the thing. Facebook is trying to take themselves seriously with this show, and if they really wanted to do that, they definitely should not have made almost every episode like only 10 minutes long. That's easily the biggest thing with the show. Because here's the thing. The storytelling they're trying to do here, you can make it work. I mean, hell, we all know how much I gush about The Leftovers. Most of that show, seasons 2 and 3, is focusing on only 1 or 2 characters each episode, and they make it work perfectly. The difference is that they have 50 or so minutes to tell a story around them and to flesh them out and give us something to really latch onto, so it feels like a complete story. Here, it always feels like it's beginning. It always feels like it's ending right as it gets really good. And that's definitely the biggest problem here. The episode should not have been like 9 minutes long. You could have easily done like a 30-minute episode for each of these characters. I'm not saying we needed a 50-minute episode. I'm not saying it didn't need to be like an hour long. Just give us like 20 or 30 minutes. And I think we could have gotten a lot more mileage out of these characters because honestly, I just didn't really feel like we went anywhere with most of them except for 2 characters. I just didn't really feel like we went anywhere. There were so many episodes that would go by and we'd just be sitting there and be like, that's it? Like, it didn't feel complete. And I think definitely if they want to improve the show, you got to make the episodes longer. This 8 minutes, 9 minutes, it's just not working. And I think it's pretty laughable that it was really that short. It was ridiculous. And I don't know why they thought that this is a show that could do that. Again, that can work. Like, you can do a 9-minute episode and make it work, just not in this style. You can't do this style of storytelling and try to tell this story in like 9 minutes. It's just simply not going to work, especially when it's over a period of 3 days. They don't really give you enough to latch onto. And I just really wanted more overall. And I just really felt like there was so much missing from the show. Like I said, the thing with CJ, like there is a lot of room for development there. Him and the actor who played Coogie, I thought they actually had some really good interactions. It just never really goes anywhere that interesting. You get the fact that he has a gun and he's selling drugs or whatever, and he has a crush on Lexi. That's Hayley Kiyoko, which everyone seems to like her in this show. Like, there's all these different like pairings going on that I don't really care about. So yeah, they try to do that, and that's really all it goes. It's very surface level, and it just doesn't really go anywhere, like I said, that interesting. I know I keep repeating myself, but that's really the thing with this show. It always felt like it was just getting interesting, and right when it was getting interesting, it would just end. And again, would not be a problem if each character did not only have like 2 episodes. If you would have given me like 3 episodes of these characters, maybe that could have worked, but each of these characters only get like 2 episodes to fully flesh them out. Like Tosh gets 2 episodes, Lexi gets 2 episodes, CJ gets 2 episodes, and again, they're so disposable and nothing that you forget they're around. Like when we would get to that character, I'd be like, oh yeah, that character's still there. That's not how I should feel. This is one of the main characters on the show. You have to get me to like this character. And the fact that I was forgetting that they were around, I think is ridiculous. And sure, maybe The Leftovers did a really good job of doing that, but that was only because each episode was better than the last, and each storyline kept you invested. In this show, on the other hand, I just forgot that the other characters were around because they didn't give us anything to really flesh out except for those 2 characters that I talked about. And I think that's easily the biggest thing with the show. The writing, yes, it's a problem, but it really is mainly due to the pacing of the show, which is so piss poor. And I think that really is just a detriment to the entire show overall.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it really just the way that because there are a lot of storylines that do go on in this show, and they do not fill any ends with them. With a good majority of them, they fill so many holes. Like, I don't know if I can really say with one element, but there's one big element involving a woman that is pregnant. That's all I'm going to basically.
That in the spoilers, but yeah.
Yeah, but basically, just the way, like, where does that even go? That goes nowhere in this season. And that's a pretty important element. And just, they do such a piss poor job of really not, like, connecting these stories or, like, developing them well, or just like filling any loose ends. Like, there is so many like loose ends in this.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there really is, like, they do not fill them up. They just keep on making them more loose and loose as they go along. And they just do such a poor job with it. Like, it really shouldn't. Like, with a show, like, because I thought, like, in the finale, they were going to, like, tie all these loose ends, but they no, they don't. They just make even more loose ends. Like, I just it literally like hurts my head. No joke. Like, it just they really just do not do a good job of like building up these stories and having a good alternative motive for them. They really don't do a good job with it and filling any type of loose ends that they have with it. They just keep on creating more and more problems with it.
Oh, yeah, let me also just let you guys know that even though we do get one episode with each of these characters, the last episode, they focus on a completely different character that we've never seen have an episode before until now. And again, this can work, but not at the end of the season. Like, they should have developed this character throughout the show, and it just simply didn't work. And they try to give him this interesting arc, and I just don't really know where it's going. I will admit the finale does end in a really interesting place, but I think we've really said enough overall. I think we really just want to delve into spoilers because it's hard to talk about the show without really getting into the spoilers, because I can't really tell you what the show is actually about and what's actually going on in the show. So I'm just going to get into it. Of course, we do know there is a major event going on in the show, and we know that there is one character, as I said, that I thought was fully fleshed out. That character was Eric. His episode, I think, was easily the best of this entire season. I think everything we got with him was great. We had a full storyline there where he has this father who is so on him because his father has this very demanding job and he does not want him to turn out like him, and he is ashamed of what he's become, so he's very hard on his son for it. And because of this, Eric feels a lot of pressure. He really wants to get into this school, and he feels like if he doesn't, then he's going to disappoint his family. Now, that is a very interesting arc. That is a place you could really go with it. And where they end up going with it, I thought was fantastic. You see the fact that he is getting waitlisted, and his girlfriend is just, he's just broken up with his girlfriend, and we didn't really know where that was coming from. But it turns out it's not because he's an asshole, because the show initially just makes you think, oh, he's an asshole, he's got this other girl that he's with. But no, it turns out he's actually very lonely, and he just does not have a lot of hope left in his life. And yeah, basically he ends up killing himself at the end of the show. And I was quite shocked where they went there. And after this was done, I said, okay, now we're actually going to go somewhere. And we do, but we also don't.
It's kind of weird. We both do and we don't.
Yeah, because here's the thing. That storyline, like I said, is really great. The problem is it's so great, nothing else can pretty much outdo it. Nothing can really top the success of that story. The reason the finale worked so well for me is because it connected to that character. Anything else that wasn't going on with that character, I just did not really care about. And there were so many ridiculous things that I could bring up, which I will in a little bit. But the next episode, we go back to Tasha's character, and it just goes back to being a really dumb show again, because we see her, she's sobbing about him or whatever. Her friend wants to confess this secret to her. We find out at the end of the show, Double Nine alludes to it. Yes, her friend is pregnant. We're basically supposed to believe with Eric's baby. This goes nowhere. This is the last time we hear about this.
Literally, it's the last time we hear about this.
The last
it literally goes nowhere.
Goes fucking nowhere. And it really pissed me off because, again, is it stupid? Absolutely. I think it is the easiest direction you could go, and the kind of story the show is trying to tell, it just does not need something like that. And unfortunately, it ends up going nowhere. It's dropped immediately. I didn't really care, but at the same time I did because they set it up as like a big thing and they don't go really anywhere. That I guess just wait for the second season and
exactly. They just forget about the whole thing.
Just wait till season 2 and you'll see what happens there. There's tons of other stuff. Like, for example, there's this whole romance going on between CJ and Lexi where she initially doesn't seem to like him, but then suddenly at the end of the show, she does for some reason. Like, she's starting to call him her boyfriend. Now, granted, this is trying to get them out of a really bad situation. These cops are like interrogating them, trying to figure out what's going on, and they want to take him in for questioning, and she's trying to stop that from happening. And there's that really great scene where she ends up giving him money from her dad. And again, that's a really great scene. I just wish I cared about that character more. I really wish I would have felt more in that scene. Like, I thought, okay, this is a really good scene. This is a really great place to take it. I just needed more. I really needed more from that storyline overall. And that was another thread that I think was just kind of like, why does she like him all of a sudden? Like, the first 2 days, she's kind of, you know, shunning him away, saying, oh, you know, I don't really like you in that way or whatever. And now suddenly she does. Like, I don't really know where that's going to go. Then you have this whole weird story between Alex and the gay character, and the gay character is one of the biggest stereotypical gay characters I have seen in a very long time. All he is he's just the sassy gay friend who, for some reason, is like really good at self-defense, which, I mean, I guess that's a good it's kind of putting a spin on that character, but it's also kind of not, because he just goes back to that same sort of persona, and it just did not really work at all. The ending implies that Alex is possibly gay, and that's why he is bullying everyone. I really don't know. I don't know where they're going with that. There's a lot of things that are very up in the air in the show.
Like I said before, they make so many loose ends that they don't try to tie them, and they just create more problems.
Yeah, and also logic in the show in the second half of the season pretty much got thrown out the window.
Oh, out the window, especially with one scene in the finale that I was just like, what the fuck did they just do?
Yeah, especially in regards to Wallace's character. There was this one scene where somehow he is able to access the security footage of what happened when there was like bullying going on and things like that, and what happened in the car. And I know that obviously schools work differently, but I went to high school and there were cameras everywhere in my high school, obviously. From my knowledge though, I'm pretty sure if you're a student, you can't fucking access that shit. Like, they make it just a little bit more secretive, so you can't really access that. So the fact that Wallace is able to hack into that is completely unrealistic. I don't know how he was able to do that. I was honestly shaking my head when that happened. I think it's one of the dumbest things I've seen in a show like this in a while. But yeah, that for me was the most jarring moment. What was the moment in the finale that you were going to bring up?
Okay, so in the finale, we go back to the scene where Eric is about to kill himself.
Yeah. And
we see that Kiyoko's character, what was her character's name again?
Yeah, Lexi.
We see that, she's like, don't do this. Like, I'm not walking away this time. I've seen a person try to do this before.
Yeah.
And we learned that it was her mother that she was alluding to.
Yeah, this was, and let me just say right now, this is a very good development. I really did like where this development went. However, they initially made us think in these first 5 episodes, in these first 10 episodes, that this was completely deliberate. Like, Eric did in fact kill himself. She wasn't able to talk him out of it. Turns out, no, that wasn't the case. She actually was able to talk him out of it. And then you're like, okay, I first thought that this was her, like, imagining what she could have said. Like, I thought that's what they were going to do here. Like, she was imagining what she could have done in that given moment, feeling regretful that she couldn't do anything to stop it. But no, that's actually not what happened. She was able to talk him out of it. And what ended up happening instead is basically she takes the gun, pulls the fucking trigger.
Yeah, like, here's what basically happened. So, like, they hear a phone ring, and I guess she must have gotten startled or something, and she fucking grabbed the gun by the trigger and pulled it and shot him.
Yeah, so basically we're supposed to believe that she's the one that actually killed Eric. It was not a suicide. And I will admit, scenes like her talking to Tosh, they do feel a lot more important. They do feel a lot more prominent in the show because of the fact that she feels very regretful. She feels like this is entirely her fault, which it absolutely is. I mean,
Yes.
It shot him, not deliberately or anything. Like, she wasn't trying to shoot him, but it went off, and basically she shot him. And basically, I'm guessing that the rest of the show is her trying to own up to her actions, try to move on from it. And this does justify why she is the main character. Like, she's always credited first, and I think it makes sense why they always say, like, starring Hayley Kiyoko, because, yeah, now she easily is the most important character in the show. The problem is, this is the last episode, and I just felt like they could have given us a lot more hints at her doing this, because everything we saw prior doesn't really make it seem that way. It makes it seem like this was completely his decision. And look, does it contradict his story? No, his story is still very strong. I really did love where they ended up taking Eric as a character, but this just kind of lessens the impact a little bit. Like, it seemed like they were trying to go for a message of how Eric was someone who, wasn't able to stop himself from doing it, but somebody else can, and someone can get the help, when instead we're telling a story about someone who was able to talk themselves out of suicide, but ended up dying anyway because the person next to them was a fucking dumbass who got scared and pulled the trigger. And I guess that's where we're going with now. And I will admit, it's intriguing. Like, I'm interested in seeing where it really does go. I'm just not entirely sure if this is really the story the show initially wanted to tell. Like, it doesn't really work in the way I think they wanted it to. I don't know. It's very confusing overall. It's definitely got us intrigued for season 2. That's for sure. I don't think we expected that. But yeah. Is there anything you want to say about this big reveal?
Like I said, it's pretty stupid. Like, who the fuck grabs the gun by the trigger, knowing what could possibly happen,
exactly.
Like, just, that's when you said logic goes out the window. That was, like, the first thing that, like, popped into my mind about that. Because, like, just, I mean, yes, it makes it intriguing, but like you said, it really, really drives away from the message that they were trying to pull with this show. And it just doesn't really necessarily work.
Yeah, like, at the end of each episode involving suicide, they'd have, like, a suicide ad, which you need to do. Like, I feel like that's something that when you deal with that, you probably should have, like, call the National Suicide Hotline or something like that. The show was very, very heavy-handed about it. Like, they would literally have, like, Madison Pettis come on and be like, if someone around you is struggling with suicide or thoughts of depression, call the local hotline. When all they need to do is just put a thing at the end that said, if you're struggling with substance abuse, call this number. That's what Sharp Objects did. It was very subtle. That's all the show needed to do. They did not need a fucking message from, like, one of the characters at the end. It was really dumb. But either way, this is a good reveal, but it also is a pretty dumb reveal. Like, it makes Lexi a much dumber character than we initially thought she was. And I'm not entirely sure where season 2 is going to go now. We'll have to see what really does end up happening there. But yeah, that's really all we got to say about spoilers. Just final thoughts overall, guys. Like I said, the show is very much, I wouldn't even say it's a mixed bag. It's just, it feels like it's just beginning. Like, it definitely feels like this is the beginning and that they're setting up something for season 2. And what they're setting up is somewhat intriguing, but it seems like this whole season is just a setup season. Like, it doesn't really stand out in its own. It doesn't give you anything to latch onto with these characters. It's so interested in deepening this mystery that it forgets to keep everything else just as interesting. It seems to forget a lot of what it initially set up in the first place. Where are we going with Wallace? I have no idea. Where are we going with Alex? I have no idea. CJ's a character that's on the show, and he hasn't really done anything interesting whatsoever. Where's Tosh going to go? Where's Lexi going to go? I really don't know at this point. And it's sad when the only character that actually had a well-fleshed-out arc is gone. We're not going to see that character anymore.
Exactly.
Unless they pull a 13 Reasons Why and we see him in, like, flashbacks or whatever. But other than that, I don't really see what else they can do with the character. It's pretty sad that he is gone because I thought he was a really great actor. And I thought that his storyline was easily the best. But other than that, there's just not really a lot to latch onto with the show. But it sounds like I'm repeating myself and it sounds like I'm forgetting things. It's because the show as a whole is just very forgettable. Like, we would watch an episode and I would almost instantly forget about it. I would forget what went on and I would try to remind myself, oh yeah, that's what this connects to. That's what happened here. That's what they were trying to talk about here. That's what this was in reference to. And the fact that the show does not give you anything to latch onto, I think, is a huge problem. It's trying to tell this grandiose story in like 5 different perspectives, and it's just unfortunately not very interesting. We've seen it done in many, many different ways before that are much more interesting than this. And I mean, the ending's good. I will say that the ending does set it up for something that's genuinely intriguing, but I still wouldn't really say the show's worth your time. I think there's much other better shows to watch, honestly. There's just not really a lot to say overall, so I'm just going to give my grade. I'm definitely going to give 5 Points Season 1 overall a C. I don't think it's a terrible show or whatever. I do think it does have potential overall, but just it never really went anywhere that interesting for me. It always felt like storylines were just beginning. It ends in a place that is genuinely intriguing, but it just never really went the extra mile to really flesh out these characters in a way I think they should. But that's really my thoughts overall. Anything, you know, your final verdict overall?
My final verdict on this is that I do think the show, while I can't necessarily say it's awful because there are some really good things about it, and things that I did really like about it, but there are some things that they really don't do all that well, especially when it comes to development, writing, and all that, and characters. But there are some intriguing stuff that I am interested to see if this show does get renewed for a second season, that I am interested to see where it could go. But overall, I thought they did kind of a really piss-poor job of what they were trying to execute, in my opinion, and they could have done really a lot better. So I'm going to give it a C as well.
So that's really it for our review of the show. You haven't seen it, definitely. I don't think anyone has really watched the show whatsoever. I know like the first 3 episodes had like really great ratings, and then they just kind of been on a down spiral. So I have no idea if the show's going to get renewed. I don't feel like anyone's watched it. If it does, I guess we'll be back next season. So that should be interesting. Definitely was not expecting to watch this entire thing. It's pretty sad that I reviewed this and I haven't finished Killing Eve, Westworld, The Terror, Legion, none of those. Really shows where my priorities are. But hey, at least I'm getting something out for you guys. I'm getting some content out of some sort. But either way,
better than nothing.
Yeah, definitely. You can check out this motherfucker's channel right here, FIlmFan0599. He doesn't do TV reviews anymore, but you know, this is, I guess, kind of making up for that. I don't, you know, it's not the kind of show that he would initially watch on his own, but you know, we watched it as a joke and somehow we ended up watching the whole thing. Either way, guys, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you've seen the show, let me know what you thought of it. But again, I don't really feel like many people have seen it, so a lot of people are still probably like, what the fuck is this show? If you have Facebook, I guess watch it. Don't watch it. I'm much more interested in the next show that they're doing because it's going to have Kevin Carroll from The Leftovers and Toby Huss from Home Catch Fire. That immediately has me on board. A much better cast than this one for sure. But that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. See you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye. Also, real quick, fuck the intro for this show. One of the laziest, I think, just lowest efforts I think I've ever seen for an intro. There's a reason you didn't see in the beginning. It's absolutely awful. You're not going to see it at the end either. It's an awful intro. I want nothing to do with it. I know people don't like my intro, but at least my intro has effort, some sort, kind of. This intro is just the lowest effort possible. Makes it look like a fucking soap opera, and I just hated it. I really wish there was like the skip intro button, but either way, that's irrelevant now. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. See you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay,
bye.